What's up? What's up? It's episode 9 of Bleav in Queens. I'm Joe Serralo. That's my man, Tyler Ward. We are missing our third co-host. I know he just debuted and he's already missing. Anthony Recker, not here with us tonight. But Tyler, you know how it goes, man. That's life with kids. Anthony's been all over MLB Network all day. He's back on it tomorrow with the Apple TV games. And, you know, his kids are keeping him up. The guy said he's exhausted. We got to let the man sleep. I mean, we can't relate. We don't know what it's like to have kids, or at least not any that I know of, but I'm sure the guy needs to play catch up on some sleep.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to gripe one bit. I know that feeling as well, right? Working all day, especially like just having to do the pod. Because for people that don't know that are watching this right now on Friday, we record the night before usually. So for me, it's midnight already. And we've done this at like 1:30 before. And sometimes they really are drags. So him with his family, MLB Network, we love Rec. Take all the time you need. He'll be back after the Marlins series for our next pod. So don't worry. But Joe, we got a lot of deep dive on today's episode, right? We don't just have the massive Subway Series sweep to those Yanks.
Yes,
you guys
sir.
saw me on my YouTube channel, WardyNYM. Had a couple drinks to me. We were feeling good. I was at the series winner yesterday. But not just that, we have some breaking news, a trade that we're going to discuss with the Cincinnati Reds. Maybe not a player you were expecting, but definitely a guy that's going to help the Mets right now as automatically their best bench bat aside from Daniel Vogelback. Then we'll get into some trade rumors, all the latest, because the Mets will be making moves. A great chance that moves will be had a couple hours or even during the time you're watching and listening to this podcast here on Friday. And then we'll be wrapping up the show by giving a quick preview, some insight into the Marlins matchup that again starts tonight by the time you guys are watching and listening. So very pumped up, Joe. Let's get into this one.
Yeah, let's get into it, man. But first, got to remind all of you that this episode of Bleav in Queens, just like every other episode of Bleav in Queens, is brought to you by our partners over at BetOnline. Head over to betonline.ag. You can get your latest development, news, lines, betting baseball, NFL futures, even NBA futures already, or NBA trades. Is Donovan Mitchell going to be wearing blue and orange soon?
Please.
You can bet it. I hope. You can bet it at BetOnline. Use that promo code Bleav50. It's a new promo code, Bleav50, BLEAV50 for your 50% welcome bonus on deposits of at least, I believe it was $50. So head over betonline.ag, Bleav50, and let the games begin. You know, Tyler, we've got to start off with the Subway Series sweep. Usually in a situation like this, we'd start off with the breaking news, but the biggest storyline around the Mets is still sweeping the crosstown rival Yankees with the best record in baseball the last two nights. So to celebrate, I dressed like a Yankee fan for this episode of Bleav in Queens. I got the wife beater on. I got the gold chain with the butcher's knife on the end. A little gabagool. How you doing? We just fucked up the Yankees, baby. Look, you were at Citi Field last night. I'm still riding a high from the last two games. I'm still on cloud nine, man. What was the ballpark like last night? I had some serious FOMO watching you there.
Oh my goodness gracious. It was absolutely electric. I know a lot of you guys watching and listening to the pod right now, you're in attendance when you have 45,000 plus strong. When you're dropping 80 plus beans or just being standing room, you know it's going to be an electric game. That was the case. I was all the way in the 500s right behind home plate. It was electric, beautiful seats. Had an absolute blast. That's why my voice is still so raspy right now, but I'm screaming my head up. We're enjoying every second of it. I met up with a lot of fans. I saw a lot of people look at me. They're like, Wardy. And then I handshook them, talked to them, did photos, all that fun stuff. It was great to meet up with Giraffe Neck, Mark James for the Mets, Step Boys for the Mets, and a bunch of others. But the entire environment was just simply electric. Like, you cannot make this stuff up, right? It only happens a couple times a year, regardless of if you're a Mets or Yanks fan. How do you not love that environment? Even if, say, the Mets would have lost, which thankfully they didn't, the environment still was absolutely to a T beautiful. And for the Mets to cap it off the way that they did with the walk-off, that is why my voice is the way it is. That was okay. But once we got there, I'm losing my absolute mind, losing bananas on the Yanks. I'm supposed to be scared of this team, the World Series favorites. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. We got plenty of ball left.
Yeah, look, man, I mean, I've said it many times this season, and the last two nights only solidifies it more so. There's one team that I'm afraid of in Major League Baseball right now. It's the Houston Astros. And it's because they have pitching that can combat the Mets, and they have a manager that's right up there with Buck Showalter and Dusty Baker as, those are the two best managers in baseball. The Yankees don't scare me, and, people might give me crap for this. I might have egg on my face later, but the Dodgers and Braves, no one scares me except the Astros. And the reason that the Yankees, with that, mashing lineup full of sluggers, don't scare me is because they're too all or nothing, and they address that with Andrew Benintendi because
Which
he's
they
a great
did
contact
after the
hitter.
Mets humbled them. So
Yes,
I'm pretty sure
exactly.
you can put 2 and 2 together.
100%. But it's because they're all or nothing, and they just simply don't have the pitching to compete in October in a short series. I mean, look at the Mets, what they did pitching against the Yankees, and they don't even have Jacob deGrom back yet. Taijuan Walker, Max Scherzer, both I thought had just incredibly gutsy performances. I don't know how much into college hoops you are, Tyler, but Bill Raftery is one of my favorites.
Gotcha.
And when you hear him say onions, I mean, that's what I saw out there from Walker and Scherzer. For those of you who don't know, onions means he's got balls. And those guys showed that they had balls, they had guts, they were tough. I mean, it was just such a gutsy performance. Walker especially giving up those 2 bombs in the first inning and just bearing down and getting tough the rest of the way. And then Max, I mean, challenging Aaron Judge. Make no mistake about it, guys. Max Scherzer on his 38th birthday made Aaron Judge his bitch. It's that simple.
That's
Aaron Judge,
fun. You got to teach him a lesson every now and then.
He sunned him on his 38th birthday, man. That was a masterful clinic on pitching from Max Scherzer. I was texting with Rec the whole time while you were there screaming your head off. And it was just like, Rec brought up that great point last episode, how Judge has the best slugging percentage in baseball against fastballs and breaking balls. Struggles against off-speed, meaning splitters, changeups, etc., but mashes fastballs, sliders, curveballs. He still struggles with that slider low and away. If you make a mistake, he's going to make you pay. But Scherzer, that one at-bat, I want to say it was Judge's second or third at-bat. It was the one where he threw 5 pitches, 4 sliders, and a changeup. And he just put every single slider where he wanted to. I mean, do you know how hard that is? It's one thing to throw a couple great sliders in a game, but in one at-bat, to go 4 for 4, pinpointing them exactly where you want them is so freaking difficult. And Max Scherzer makes it look so easy when he's on the bump. It's why he's one of the all-time greats, why he's a first ballot Hall of Famer in the making. I mean, he just really, really made Aaron Judge look silly, a guy who's probably going to win the MVP award this year.
And it's funny because in the game, every single time that Judge came up for his at-bat, this place roared like you can never believe it. I mean, all the Yankees fans coming out from the ground up, they're ready and cheering on their MVP with the MVP chants. And it was hilarious because every single time they came up, Mad Max came up strong and struck him out 3 straight times. I was hoping to get the sombrero on 4, but hey, we'll take 3 and the ground out, right? That was absolutely massive. And what I love so much about Max's approach, especially against Judge, was I expected that slider down away. I emphasized on our last pod. I thought it would be a good matchup. I really did. But Max's slider, since coming off the IL, I feel like has been the best one he's had all year. Early on in the year, he was throwing some haters, didn't love it. I remember some matchups against the Phillies, as a matter of fact, where the matchup just wasn't there for him with those off-speed pitches as much as it was that we've seen of recent. So for that slider be absolute money, going from the Cincinnati start in which he had 11 strikeouts to now him getting 7 scoreless on the Yanks on his 38th birthday. I'm loving that for him. I'm loving that for the Mets. And looking the other way, Wandy Peralta, the southpaw, on his birthday as well. He gives up the walk-off to Marte. I mean, you had a good birthday and you had a bad birthday. We weren't both going to come out happy in the end. I'm just happy for Max because I guarantee entering that game, he had probably gifts thrown out left and right, probably had birthday candles. He's probably walking straight like, I'm not even going to blow out the candles. I'm all pissed off because he's just so locked in on his game day, and he absolutely shoved for the Mets. A phenomenal performance. But before we deep dive a little bit further on game 2, wrapping up the series, let's just talk slightly more on game 1, right? Because the juice balls, it felt like it was inevitable. I say this all the time. I want to know what your stance is on this, Joe. It might be different than mine, but I'm a firm believer and stance regarding the juice baseballs, especially in bigger games. We saw it last year in the Subway Series. I feel like we see it for the Field of Dreams games. They're flying out a little bit more than they should at least start a game when they're nationally televised, right? So we have this matchup. The Yanks get back-to-back Judge, and then you saw there with Rizzo. Ty, however, he humbles himself. He still goes 6 strong, only giving up 3 earned runs. That's why Taijuan Walker is not the Jekyll and Hyde pitcher that we saw in the 2021 season, folks. He's a bulldog. But then the offense to come back and to bounce back and give yourselves a 4-2 lead, just like that Eddie Escobombs, who promised the kid pregame saying, if I hit a home run, I will give you my baseball bat. He gives him his baseball bat. I mean, the Mets get off to an early lead. Absolutely nuts. The Yanks did not have it for long. And that was also the first time in Mets history in a 60-year span where they had at least 4 home runs in the first inning. Never happened before for the Mets, but it happened there in that matchup. So, Joe, quickly on your stance, what's your stance on the juice baseballs? Do you believe it? Do you think it was just kind of a coincidence? Like, how are you feeling about that? I just want to pick your brain real quick.
I mean, I was definitely believing in it during game one, but then it's like, did they just send him for game one and not game two? Because Scherzer was on the bump and
Maybe, I don't know.
Because I mean, the ball wasn't flying last night.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the Mets had that early home run. Alonso crushed it in the second inning to start things off. But
yeah, it just got over,
He crushed that. Yeah, he crushed that. And I'm thinking if that was Tuesday night, maybe that ball's going to the left field landing. I mean, right? So maybe they sent him in for the one game because, Major League Baseball is funny, right? Sports kind of tailor to the stars. So maybe they said, hey, Max is pitching Wednesday. We respect him. We love him. We don't want the juice balls for his start, but we don't care about Taijuan Walker. So juice him up for game one, start the Subway Series off with a bang. I don't know if it's true or not, but I know that the stars of game one, what stood out to me the most was Billy Epler. What he did the offseason, bringing in Starling Marte, Eduardo Escobar, some Fogo power. I mean, Escobar had a great Subway Series. Obviously, was instrumental game two also in the walk-off win in the ninth. He had a great series. Marte was absolutely superb. I mean, also, flashed some leather out there in right field, had a nice sliding catch
by him.
I mean, yeah. So the offseason that Epler had, obviously in the lineup, those guys really shined. And then the obvious $43 million man, Max Scherzer, was just superb. So it was, I mean, these games could not have been played any better by the Mets.
Absolutely. And some big takeaways for me personally when looking at game one. I mean, Ty, you touched on it briefly, but for him to go out and to get rattled the way he did, to not have his stuff, Recker emphasized, he has that splitter. He wasn't working well with the command. That's what unfortunately led to him giving up some base knocks, the home runs that we saw early, but he was able to compose himself. And when I saw him be able to shove and not have his first scoreless, 1, 2, 3 inning, at least until the 5th inning, after you went through the rotation of the guys in the lineup for at least twice, if not 3 times, that showed me that, again, this is a different Taijuan Walker, not just with the hairdo he currently has. He's definitely locked in a different way than what we saw in the second half of last year, where more often than not, he just simply wasn't the guy. He looked gassed out there, was struggling with his command. His arsenal was different because he wasn't trusting pitches. He still shoved out there, and I give him the absolute most credit for doing so. But Adam Ottavino as well, stepping up, going 1.2 scoreless against his former team, only giving him 1 hit was huge. And then you had Edwin Diaz with the 4-out save. I mean, Yanks fans think they have a rally going. Just wait until you hear those damn trumpets. Your night's over.
It is the dude. I don't want to hear anything about Enter Sandman, Hell's Bells, which I even used in college for a year. Like, I'm sorry. When I hear those trumpets, I'm ready to run through a wall.
Absolutely. I can only imagine what the feeling was like for fans in game one. Obviously, I wasn't there for that one, but I mean, Citi Field was absolutely rocking. But he has 4 strikeouts in the 4 outs that he faced. He was just absolutely ridiculous. And even when Diaz got on that slight jam there in the 9th, right, he could have an easy double play to end the game. Judge had a little comebacker to him. Somehow Diaz comes out of his hand, can't get the throw to second, but then he just shuts the door with back-to-back strikeouts to end the inning to save the game. I mean, this is just prime sugar right now, the best save artist that we've had in quite a while. He might go down as arguably the best in Mets history if he keeps up this pace this season. That is just how good Edwin Diaz has been. Marte, Escobar, Alonso, Lindor, all getting in there with the doubles, the home runs, whatever you need to do. And then to jump on more Jordan Montgomery, only going 2.1 innings against us. Yes, the Yanks bullpen definitely was able to solidify things down the stretch. But other than that, I mean, Jordan Montgomery, he did nothing. And he was a guy who I'm almost certain had a 9-year rate in his past 2 starts against the Mets. 7-year rate total. I wonder what that number is now through 4 starts, because it's absolutely horrendous. This guy just cannot handle Subway Series, right?
Yeah, I think he's got 1 less earned run than he has innings pitched
against
against the Mets in his career. I mean, it's an astronomical ERA. The Mets own him. The Mets have his number. I mean, give him credit. He's had a really good year. His stuff just doesn't impress me. He's got low velo, good little change piece, but his stuff just doesn't impress me enough to be pitching to, what was it, a 3.2 ERA going into that game?
Yep.
So the Mets have his number. They did what they're supposed to do. Right, let's face it. Montgomery is not a guy who's going to crack the Yankees postseason rotation. Herman, just because he's not putting together a full season, he probably won't either. So, the Mets did what they needed to do. I'm not going to take anything away from their wins like some Yankee fans are trying to do right now. Get out of here with that shit. But
this wasn't our World Series. We just beating up on you guys. I'm sorry.
I mean, look,
to comprehend.
We had the clear pitching advantage in each game, and we did what we were supposed to do. Now, if the Yankees pulled out a split in that series, even though it would be a split, they'd have the right to talk, to talk some smack because we had such a big pitching advantage. But we did what we were supposed to do. We made their lineup look like little kittens. By the way, the Royals tonight made their lineup look like little girls. Yanks
If it
won.
wasn't for Aaron Judge walk-off, a 1-0 win, whoop the effing do. Like,
they had
seriously.
one hit. They had one hit going into the ninth.
I know. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic.
Yeah. And Benny was 0 for 4, I believe.
Yeah,
so
he was. Against his former team, no less. They probably had a little bit of an edge on him.
By the way, I mean, look, I know that this is a Mets show, but we're obviously both big baseball guys. And I talked about this on my national radio show earlier today on Soralo Sports Talk. The Benintendi trade, from the Royals' perspective, I don't understand why they traded him before this series. Yes, they're not, bitter rivals with the Yankees. I get it. But the deadline's not till Tuesday. And the Royals got a garbage return. They got 3 A-ball pitchers, none of whom are top 20 prospects in the Yankees farm system. So it's like if the Yankees wowed them with a package, I get it. But considering that was not a significant package, I'd be shocked if one of those 3 guys made it to the big leagues eventually. I don't get the Royals' urgency instead of maybe just keeping Benintendi for the weekend and trading him to the Yanks on Sunday or on Monday. Like, I don't understand them making that deal before a 4-game set with the Yankees. He's staying in the team hotel. He's got nowhere to stay in New York. He's staying in the team hotel. I don't get giving him to the Yankees for peanuts right before a 4-game set when they could have done it right after.
I think it just shows you the lack of care their front office had, right? Because I'm pretty sure that Benintendi even flew, if I'm not mistaken, with the Royals team into the city because he got there yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure the Royals were there too. They didn't fly in today right before the game. So I'm pretty sure they all flew in together. So maybe that was a factor saying, hey, we're going to the Bronx. We like this deal. We think this is enough. Let's just do it now. We might as well make life easier for everyone traveling. I mean, if they're really being that courteous to Benny, then okay. But other than that,
but I mean, he was probably already in New York. They probably already flew in, or at least were on the plane while the trade was going down. It's just like he's staying at the hotel. Keep him on the team for the weekend. Like, why give him to the team you're playing for 4 games when, I mean, that package would have still been on the table. It was not a significant trade package. Like, it's not like it was the Yankees being like, hey, we'll give you Jason Dominguez, but it's now or never. I mean, that was not a good trade package for the Royals. So it's like, if you're going to give them away, just wait 4 days. I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. But you know what? Bottom line is, it's a great deal for the Yankees. It's what they needed because they're very all or nothing. But the Mets took advantage of that all or nothing. Our pitching was just, I mean, everyone except David Peterson was just absolutely phenomenal. Lights out. Can we talk about Seth Lugo before we get to the trade talk?
Yeah, no, let's give up a couple more points about this game. I just want to share quick from my personal experience because watching the highlights after, it's crazy how different they look than being intense, screaming your head off at the game. But Max, again, he had 6 strikeouts. The fact that half of them were against Judge, when let's keep in mind, at least 2 of those 4 at-bats were multiple guys on, around 2 or less than 2 outs. I mean, that was huge for Max to come out there and shove and get Judge a strikeout with those runners in scoring position, no less. Yanks doing their best, like 2021 Mets impression out here. Can't score when they need to. Daniel Vogelbach, I got to give credit. We talked a little bit about Vogie so far. He's been on base 4 of his first 7 plate appearances for the Mets. Had a walk and a base knock yesterday. We take that to the bank. Mets, of course, had a couple runs. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Again, he has a really good eye for a 300-pound, 6-foot man, a lefty power bat. But in the second to third, the Mets tacked on those runs. He got on Domingo Germán early. However, Germán did settle in a little bit. He only won 4.2. He gave up those 2 earned runs. The bullpen got it done for the Yanks for a little bit up until we saw Clay Holmes get a little shaky. That isn't the Clay Holmes that I know. Like, what happened there, right? Edwin Diaz.
Not even a question who the best closer.
It's night and day. Clay Holmes wishes he was Edwin Diaz. You have to look way beyond that ERA. He might have not been charged with a run, but we understood what happened there. Seth Lugo, however, before we get there, David Peterson in the 8th again for the Mets. And both times he hasn't looked great. He's still getting adjusted to the bullpen. Just absolutely sucked, honestly, that the Mets were in a spot there where, maybe Drew Smith would have been nice, even though I don't love it. However, Drew Smith is now on the IL. We'll see how long he's out for. That'll go into trade talk after we break down the Reds move, because the Mets are destined to make an acquisition or 2 for relievers, and that may happen again by the time you're listening or watching this, and then we'll discuss those moves when they happen, surely. But David Pearson comes in, he gives up that Oppo Bond to Gleyber. As soon as he threw that pitch, I knew it was out. Like, as soon as it hit off the bat, I should say, of Gleyber, you knew it was going Taco to tie the game. And I felt a little gut wrench, but I still like the Mets' chances. They didn't feel out of it. It sucked the soul out of all of us fans there for a moment. I'm like, late game, of course, the Yanks come back the way that they do. But Seth Lugo, Joe, take it away. I mean, the man that we've harped on the most out of this bullpen for the most part, he, at minimum, deserves another week in this bullpen. I mean, he's been that good.
Yeah. I mean, look, if Seth Lugo pitches like that the rest of the way, this man, deserves to share eighth inning responsibilities with Ottavino or whoever the hell the Mets bring in. I mean, what we saw from Lugo, reaching back for 97. I can't tell you the last time I've seen 97 out of him. Obviously, adrenaline played a big factor in that outing last night. But the curveball is just, Seth Lugo curveball is incredible.
He made Josh Donaldson look like an absolute fool.
Well, Josh Donaldson makes himself look like an absolute fool. but Lugo's curveball was great. His slider got up to 92. Yeah, I mean, it didn't have a ton of break, and I was like, oh, if Judge put a bat, I think that was against Judge. I was like, if he put a bat on that, it could have gone over the right field fence. But, I mean, it was just Lugo was amped. Lugo was on another level. And everything I saw out of him was vintage Seth Lugo, the guy who, look, I know I've been tough on him since we started this show 9 episodes ago. I love Seth Lugo. I've loved him since 2016 when him and Robert Gazelman essentially willed what was such a battered and banged up starting rotation
out of nowhere
to the postseason. Yeah, so Lugo and Gazelman, I mean, those guys, I'll always have love for them because in 2016, the Mets pitching staff was just so injured that those guys really stepped in alongside, Bartolo and really Noah at the end of the day and led that team to the postseason. But, Lugo, I was thinking his time was up. If he pitches like that, man, I'll trust him in any situation. But my biggest takeaway for Lugo was how much he has struggled immensely this season going back out for a second inning of work.
Joe, I was having a semi-heart attack when I saw him out.
He's been awful this year.
I was losing my mind. I was like, I get it that Edwin went for 4 outs yesterday, but I still want Edwin in this spot here over Lugo right now.
Especially with the off day. Yeah, had an off day Monday,
exactly.
an off day
He's
today,
already
Thursday.
Pitching 3 straight games. I was yelling at everyone around me. I'm saying, why is Diaz not in there? What is going on?
I was in complete, full 1,000% agreement with you. Edwin Diaz, I felt, and I think if he was truly needed, I think he would have been available. Mm-hmm. I think that if we went to 10 innings, Diaz would have been out there with the guy on second because of his insane strikeout rate. I think he's the guy you put out there in the top of the 10th and you bank on your team winning it in the bottom of the 10th. So I think we would have seen Diaz had that game gone to extras. I really do. Buck manages to win. He's not worried. Oh, well, we got the Marlins this weekend. No. That ain't Buck. And with the 2 off days sandwiching the Subway Series, I think Diaz would have pitched in the 10th. But Lugo, who has been absolutely horrendous going back out. He's been good right out of the pen, but going out for his second inning of work this year, he has just been completely lost. He was sharp as nails. I mean, everything we saw out of Lugo, it was vintage. It was incredible. It regained my confidence in him because when the lights were brightest this year in his highest stakes outing of the season, Seth Lugo showed he had onions.
Love that line, Joe. And you're 1,000% right. Let's see if Lugo can continue this momentum. We've been questioning how much more leashes he can get in this Mets bullpen because I haven't trusted him. You haven't trusted him. But when you come out and go roughly 2 innings scoreless against the Yanks in the Subway Series, you deserve some credit. He absolutely does. I just pray for his sake that he can show some more consistency. That's all we're asking from the guy. Okay. And for Buck's sake, just make sure you're utilizing him well. I know he looked great in that spot, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to bet on him being able to go roughly 2 innings each time scoreless. Like, that's something that I don't think we're going to get from Lugo this year. So just play your cards right. Know how to utilize him, and hopefully that's going to lead the Mets to more success in their bullpen, Joe. But what's your final takeaway from this Subway Series victory? Because for me, it's not just with all the fan attention. You're having the entire baseball world watching, like you always do for a Subway Series matchup. But the Mets come in, they face the Yanks, a team that, again, has been the best in baseball, and just shut them down. And there really wasn't any point in this entire series, Joe, other than them tying the game there in the 8th for like a slight moment, that I felt awfully concerned. Like, the Mets just made me feel comfortable. They got the bats when they needed to early in game 1, early in the series overall. And like I always tell you, Joe, when the Mets score within the first 3 innings, I love the chances of them winning a ball game. So for them to be able to do that, and we know the number now, I'm pretty sure the Mets are 52-5 whenever they score,
4 more runs. It's insane.
Absolutely nuts. So the Mets are scoring. They're scoring often. They have over 90% chance of winning. That's absolutely insane. But my biggest takeaway, my voice is still raspy, but it's the best way possible. I'm so proud of these Amazons, and I just can't wait to see what the next Subway Series matchup late in August has in store at in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium. It's going to be an absolute blast.
Yeah, man, I can't wait either. My biggest takeaway is just the Mets are ready for the postseason. They're built for the postseason. You know, these were playoff games. They were managed like playoff games. There was no time wasted with Joely Rodriguez or, you know, any of the relievers who might not be on that roster come October.
Buck did circles around Boone, especially game one.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, I spoke to one of my old college roommates, actually, big Yankee fan, great guy, and earlier today, and you know, I said, look, man, I said, you guys have a great team, and I genuinely hope it's a Subway Series World Series because, like I said, the one team I'm a little afraid of is Houston. But I told him, I said, there's no question the best two managers in baseball are Buck Showalter and Dusty Baker. I mean, you know, and look at how the Yankees have fared against the Mets and the Astros. I know the Mets are 0-4 against the Astros, but look at how the Yankees have fared against those two teams. I mean, when you're playing chess with Buck Showalter and Dusty Baker, you're not winning. You're not winning. Aaron Boone is just, you know, I think he's done a fine, serviceable job. I think he's a top 12 manager in baseball. But he doesn't compare to those two guys when it comes to coaching. And Buck Showalter showed it. You know, the bullpen was used the way it will be used in October. And so I'm just watching that and knowing that even more reinforcements are on the way. This team's ready for the postseason.
And let's talk about reinforcements now, shall we? Because again,
I love a good segue.
Exactly. By the time we're recording this, I just came off of doing a live stream on the YouTube channel, WardyNYM. Make sure to check it out, guys, if you want. See my raw reactions. But I want to hear your opinion, Joe, because the Mets came out. We expected to move today. There was a lot of rumblings. Shout out to Michael Marino and Andy Martino. As much as Andy drives me nuts, there's all been speculation over the past day that there would be some moves that transpired starting tonight. And we saw that right around 10 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern time, folks, is that the Mets have made a trade for a reliever from the Cincinnati Reds who's going to be nothing more than southpaw AAA depth, that being in Phillip Diehl. You know, he has a roughly 11 ERA in the bigs this year. He's going to be a guy that's in AAA, has a right around a 4.5 in the minors and had just 2.5 last year. So not far removed from looking really good in the minor leagues. For, again, a veteran southpaw, adds on with Alex Claudio that the Mets have there. But the bigger move between the two is that the Mets also land their best bench bat now, not named Daniel Vogelbach, and that is Tyler Naquin. You know, he is now the Mets' new fourth outfielder. I love Travis Jankowski, but Janky really hasn't hit a lick since May, in part with his injuries. That definitely hasn't helped him. But even though he has that great speed that we saw there in the Subway Series victory for sure, has a great glove, the Mets are clearly trying to fill all the holes that they have offensively on the bench right now. Naquin comes in. He's a guy that on the years hitting right around, you know, a buck 250, I should say, 245 to be exact. 7 home runs, 32 RBIs, 28 to 29 runs scored, you know, around a 245 average, a 305 on base percentage, a 429 slug, and a 98 WRC plus. So he's just below the average player in baseball right now. But why is Naquin appealing? One, last year he had a massive year for the Reds. It just come down to health for someone like Naquin. He's dealt with a plethora of injuries early in his career. For the veteran, he had 19 bombs, 70 RBIs last year for Cincinnati with a 270 average and, you know, just around an 800 OPS. This year, a little bit down with the offensive numbers. I know he's dealt with ailments, but he comes to the Mets now as, again, another lefty bat, just like Jankowski for the outfield. Not as good of a glove in the outfield as Jankowski and isn't as fast as Janky. Does have a little speed, does have a lot of grittiness. He's a guy that's really hard-nosed with his baseball. Does have an over 800 OPS against right-hand pitching this year, around a 260 average. Against lefties, he can't hit lefties. He's very much like a Vogelbach. You know, they're huge swing and miss there. So he's a guy that you're going to utilize against righties that you see more often than not. And right now, again, I'd imagine that Jankowski, as much as I love the guy, the Stony Brook legend, he's probably going to be cut now. There are no options for him in minor leagues. So fingers crossed he clears through waivers the way that we just saw happen with Travis Blankenhorn. It'd be great if we can get him down there, keep him in the organization. However, we'll see what happens. If not, wish him the best wherever he goes. Already now, you look at Dom Smith, J.D. Davis, and even Jankowski. No one compares to what Naquin has brought offensively, especially against righties. Him and Vogelbach have a thing going now. Now for the games, especially where, you know, Canna's starting every 2 or 3 games in a series. For that third game, you may very well see Naquin in the lineup now in his spot in the corner outfield. That's where he'll be playing. Or even for times that say a Marte needs a day off. You just need a more MLB quality bat to be in there as your fourth outfielder than Jankowski, who's been nothing more than just a speedster and a guy that could give you that occasional walk. There's been little to no offensive production. Mets get a nice little pop in their bat now. And again, nothing more than a fourth outfielder. This is not the Mets' groundbreaking move. I assure you there will be more to come. But this is really good MLB quality depth, in my opinion, Joe. So what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I like the deal. The reason I'm making eyes and making faces over here is because I'm thinking, is there a chance that Naquin replaces JD Davis? Because personally, I think that Jankowski right now is a much more valuable piece to this Mets team than JD, and that's because of what he offers both on the base paths and defensively. JD hasn't hit a lick this season, and in a normal year, in years past with JD, I would want his bat, and I value him more than Jankowski. But the fact that the guy can't play defense and he's a DH who's not hitting, I'm almost curious if Naquin, the logical move, straightforward move that makes sense is he replaces Jankowski, yes. But right now, I almost view Jankowski as more valuable to this Mets team as a late inning pinch runner and defensive replacement than JD Davis has been this season. But, I like the move. Like you mentioned, he doesn't hit lefties a lick. And it's kind of interesting that a team that has struggled so mightily against left-handed pitching this year has added Daniel Vogelbach and Tyler Naquin, who both crush righties but can't hit lefties to save their lives. Definitely interesting. Look, there is a big righty bat on the way. Whether it's Wilson Contreras, Trey Mancini, JD Martinez, a big righty back is coming to Queens soon. But the Mets get their second lefty bat in a week's time exactly in the last 7 days. And I really like the deal. It's funny. I've got a great Naquin story. I actually got his autograph his rookie year. 2016, I followed the Mets to Detroit.
There you go, when he was playing with Lindor.
Yeah, it was the summer I was going into college. And my dad, myself, my little sister, the three of us took a road trip to Detroit for the Mets. And we stopped in Cleveland and Pittsburgh along the way. So we got 3 ballparks in. And I actually got Naquin and Lindor's autographs, both.
Oh, sweet.
At Progressive. And the story of how I got Lindor's is great. I'll save that for an episode that Wrecker's here, though. Really, really good story. But with Naquin, look, this is a guy who was 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting that season, had arguably his best year as a rookie. Last year, power-wise, had his best year with the Reds. Now, you have to assume that those power numbers last year, a dash inflated because of Great American Ballpark.
Absolutely.
But if the guy can provide some pop, can provide, that 4th outfielder presence, maybe platoon with Kana or Kanya every now and then in left field when a righty's pitching, give Mark a night off, because I don't think Kana was really supposed to be an everyday player when the Mets signed him. I think he was supposed to be like a 2 out of 3 guy who was just playing out of his mind earlier in the year, so he earned an everyday role. But, Naquin, I think, will be a good piece to this team. You look at his career splits against lefties. Well, this season, hitting a $171 as opposed to 266 versus righties. 6 of his 7 home runs this year, hit one today, against righties. In his career, you're talking 211 against lefties versus 280 against righties. So that's really damn good. And 51 of 57 home runs against righties. That's over 90% of his career home runs have come against right-handed pitching. So with Naquin, he's one-dimensional in that sense, but he's also a really good lefty on righty bat. So I'm happy with this trade. The Mets gave up absolutely nothing. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're a little more in touch with the minor league system, but I hadn't heard of either of those 2 guys that we gave up.
Yeah, Jose Acuna and Hector Rodriguez, who are both, on the latter half of, top 20 prospects for the Mets or so. They're nothing. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they're right around, in the 20s there. Nothing drastic. However, there are guys that have had solid years this year, but again, low A, nothing big for the Mets right now. This is something where if they're going to make a move like this, you're going to be giving up prospects again in the 20s range. Plus, that's what they did. I think this is a win-win trade. The Reds, they offload a contract. That's a rental. And Naquin, he's making $4 million for the remainder of the year. Then he can walk, of course. And then the Mets get a reliever too. But a couple more things I want to add about this deal.
Real quick. I'm sorry. Did we give up more for Tyler Naquin than the Yankees did for Andrew Benintendi?
No, I don't think so, because the guys that the Yanks gave up for Andrew Benintendi still have more upside. I mean, the Yanks have a deeper.
24-year-olds in A-ball.
Yanks have a deeper prospect pool than the Mets. Mets are very top heavy. So
okay, I see a 24-year-old in A-ball, and I'm like, that's not good.
Yeah. That's fair. But again, they're guys that have some decent high upside from the early reports I saw between the Yanks and Royals deal. So I'm not following them immensely. If we have someone that's a huge prospect guru, let us know in the comments on YouTube, especially your thoughts on it. But what I do know, again, is the Mets, they get this lefty bat, and especially against right-handed starters. Again, a 280 average this season, 280 overall against righties in his career. So I like that move for the Mets. Again, you just want to add more pop in this lineup than what they currently have. And nothing personal against Jankowski, but he is an automatic out. And while you do believe that maybe he could be a JD replacement, I don't think that's impossible, Joe. but I would be very surprised if that happened. I think that the Mets are willing to sacrifice the potential speed and defense because they know that they want more well-roundedness at the plate. Because at the end of the day, you need the offense there. The Mets, their defense has not been a gripe all year long for the most part. This solidifies Jeff McNeil not playing in the outfield at all again this year. That's what this does basically for them. Gives them that security to have someone more reliable offensively than Jankowski, for when Canna is not playing and say this series finale of a series that you already won the series or whatever it may be. And now this opens the door for the Mets in an interesting way because as we pivot now just from this trade news, but the trade rumors going on, if the Mets do land someone like Wilson Contreras, who all reports right now are that the Mets really, really want Wilson Contreras the same way that they really, really like Trey Mancini. The last time we talked a couple episodes ago in the pod, a couple days ago, rather, I should say, the Mets looked like they had a deal getting close to Mancini. Of course, that hasn't solidified. He had an inside the park home run today because it hit off of Lowe's head for the Tampa Bay Rays.
Oh.
That's crazy, but that's a different discussion right now.
How is that not an error? I know it didn't hit his glove, but
just give it a trait. It's his last home game. Just give it to him. All right. He got the curtain call and everything. He enjoyed it with the fans. But
he's slow. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, he is slow. That's okay though. We'll live with that. But Trey Mancini,
it took him a long time to get around. Sorry.
It's okay. Who might be a future Met. I know that people don't love that name as much as some others out there, and I get it. Look, the biggest thing about Mancini, right, is he's someone who is not necessarily the answer against left-hand pitching. He doesn't have the same numbers. He has around a 650 OPS against lefties this year. If you look at Wilson Contreras, Wilson rakes against lefties over 1,000. He's one of the best hitting catchers in the league, especially against southpaws. You have JD Martinez, who I know the Mets have plenty of interest in, and I know that the Boston Red Sox love Dom Smith, so maybe there could be a pair there as well. JD, again, is raking over 1,000 OPS, so like a 360 average against lefties, 300 average on the year. JD Martinez would be beautiful. But when looking at Wilson Contreras, why he's so appealing for the Mets right now is that, according to Martino and some other reports that we have seen, is that it's been discussed already that if the Mets do get a deal done to potentially land Contreras and or David Robertson, the stud reliever, that one of Tomas Nido or James McCann could be in play here. Now, I know that none of us want to see Nido go because he's that great defensive guru. He knows the pitching staff so well. I get that. And James McCann, between the two, actually had a rehab game tonight. He's first back from his oblique injury. I know you can tell he's kind of rushing back. He's hearing these rumors. He knows he needs to heal up quick. Went 1 for 3 tonight. However, McCann with that contract isn't easy to part. There's been some rumblings that if the Mets do part with him, maybe they will eat some of that deal. I mean, as long as Steve Cohen doesn't mind, the Mets can handle it without a problem. Sign me up. I think it makes a lot of sense, honestly, for the Cubs if they part with Contreras to take on one of Nido or McCann. Because when McCann, at minimum, you're getting a guy who can be arguably your starting catcher for the next year. Maybe you flip him as a rental to trade deadline next year if he has more of an offensive breakout. Maybe he thrives in Chicago like he did with the White Sox, right? Or in Nido's case, he's controllable. Something that, again, would be on the outside looking in the scenario where the Mets take on Contreras, and then you have Francisco Alvarez chomping on the bit next year. If there's a scenario where maybe the Mets would consider extending Contreras, then you look further as to say, hey, is there even room here for Nido? There really isn't at that juncture, but you land Contreras in this hypothetical, and that gives the Mets potential where they can still go out and land one more bat, right? Because if you part with McCann or Nido, then you're going to have, say, Contreras, Nido, or Contreras as McCann as your 1-2 for the catching. You still have room then to land another bat that can kill lefty pitching. Brandon Drury, Naquin's former teammate now from Cincinnati, he would fit the bill with a guy that, again, might not be too costly, but can definitely have that impact for you. Rakes against lefties. JD Martinez, of course, can be that huge bat if you're going to focus on Contreras more in the catching position. Maybe they go out and still consider Martinez for DH. That would be the best of both worlds. Not getting my hopes up, but it would be awesome. Trey Mancini could still be in the cards, or to a lesser degree, like a Drury, even like a Kyle Farmer from the Reds. I know we got a lot of Reds here, but they're all killing lefties this year. So if you're looking for a move like that, you have more flexibility with acquiring one more bat should you land Contreras than say you would with someone like JD Martinez or even Trey Mancini to a little bit of a lesser extent. Probably if you look at Naquin, it makes you do wonder, are the Mets going to have that same interest in Mancini now? Would they love his versatility? Would they utilize that versatility as much now for a guy that will play corner at times when the Mets now have Naquin as that potential option? So a lot of things to wait for the Mets right now, Joe. So what's your quick takeaway about these latest rumors, especially because the Mets, they love Contreras, they love Robertson, and more than anything, it looks like a reliever is going to land in Queens probably within the next 24 to 48 hours at minimum. So let me hear all your takes on this at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot going on there. I think you got to go all in with the Cubs at the moment. Now, I love Mancini. I love JD Martinez. we've talked about Mancini's positional versatility, but the fact of the matter is he really hasn't played the field that much this season.
Yeah.
And the Mets are starting to, the one thing, the Mets aren't scaring me, but the one thing that is starting to scare me is locking in on too many guys who can't play the field. You know, I mean, the Mets have spoken about positional versatility being important, but they just got Daniel Vogelbach, who is a lefty bat who cannot play the field. And now when you look at Mancini, who, you know, looking at that inside the park home run today, I was like, my, oh my, this guy cannot run to save his life. You know, I don't really trust him in the outfield more than anyone that they have. And, you know, JD Martinez, I can't remember the last time he played the field for the Boston Red Sox. So it's like Wilson Contreras right now, I think should be the top priority, of course, because also he would come with David Robertson if that deal is made. And he gives you a catcher / DH. You know, don't forget the Mets can start Tomas Nido, who, you know, last year, Jacob deGrom, and for a couple of years now, deGrom has only wanted to throw to Nido. The Mets could start him and DH Contreras, you know, any day like that. So I think that's got to be your top priority here, because you can't stack up a bench with too many guys who can't play the field. What happens if a guy goes down? You know, what happens? And that's why I mentioned Jankowski being more valuable than JD Davis, because right now it's like we've got JD and Vogelbach, neither can play the field. And, you know, all of a sudden the bench starts, you know, looking a little thin. So I think the Cubs have to be the deal that gets done, because A, you address the bullpen, B, you know, you get the best offensive catcher in baseball. And I think if you can work James McCann into that deal, that you're in a great position. You know, we'll see if it's McCann and Mauricio, who hit 2 home runs tonight.
And keep in mind Dom Smith. Dom feels like, according to Martino and others, the Cubs have really liked Dom Smith a lot for like easily the past 2 months.
Yeah,
so
they also like JD Davis. They also really like JD Davis.
Dude, take all of them. If it means we're giving up less prospect capital,
let's keep Mauricio, take McCann, Dom, and JD, and we'll call it a fleece. I mean, my goodness. But yeah, so, you know, I would say just because at some point you do need guys who can play the field. And I know that so far this year, Kana, Nimmo, Marte have been great, but God forbid someone goes down.
Exactly.
You know, it's like, you know, God forbid Pete goes down. Vogelbach can play first, but it's like, you know, you don't have good defenders on this team, and they're targeting a lot of DHs. So I would say, you know, before Mancini, before even JD, go get Contreras and go get Robertson, of course, with him.
And that's the dream scenario. And again, it's funny because just a couple days ago when we recorded last, it seemed like Mancini was a lock. And again, according to current reports, the Mets really like Mancini. They really like a Jorge Lopez or a Dylan Tate more than likely to pair with him. So it would be package deals either end of the spectrum we're looking. But that versatility, again, we talk about with Mancini, but given acquiring Naquin now, you have to wonder if that even favors things a little bit further for someone like Wilson Contreras. I just think, again, he fits the bill in a lot of ways for what the Mets need right now. And again, in this scenario where they do part with a McCann or Nido, it just gives you further reason to say that, yes, they will still land one more bat. So for your concern originally by saying, hey, we just acquired 2 lefty bats that can only hit righties. Well, again, you land Contreras, that's 1 bat that automatically murders lefties. And you go out and land another, maybe potentially lesser bat, you know, lower name, again, a Drury, a Farmer, just a couple guys that are popping in my mind because I know they rake against lefties this year. And just like that, you have a nice balance and a lot of options for the Mets. They want to build more of offensive options. They trusted their defense all year. And while you do lose that speed and that great versatility with Jankowski, however, I think the Mets at this juncture kind of committing to saying, hey, we trust what we have right now. We want more offensive certainties than question marks, which is something that unfortunately they've dealt with for the entirety of the season in both the DH, catching, and 4th outfield positions. So it's going to be exciting. I know bullpen-wise, we got names like Daniel Bard, who I know you would love, Joe, from the Colorado Rockies. Has just over a 1.5-year array, I Bleav, right now when he's pitching in cores. He's available out there. We see the likes of Joe Mansupply as well, that from the Arizona Diamondbacks, has been doing as well as of late. Mets have shown interest. The Detroit Tigers are a team that I'm personally going to be watching a lot for the next couple of days because they're fire sailing even some of their young studs in their organization with years of control. Basically, anyone and everyone, for the most part, is willing to be dealt now. Detroit went in the year with playoff aspirations, nipping out the heels. Now they're ready to full-on fire sale. So you look at Andrew Chafin. You look at Michael Fulmer, the former New York Met. You look at Gregory Soto. There's a lot of options out there for the Mets to bolster this bullpen. I expect them at minimum to probably land 2 relievers, even with Pearson and McGill coming in. We'll see. And then at minimum, 1 big bat will be coming in. So hopefully next time we talk, Joe, a couple of days from now after the Marlins series, we have a big trade to discuss.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, man. I'm thinking that, I mean, it should be done. I don't know. I mean, we'll see how active they are over the weekend. I'm feeling like it's either going to be done today, Friday, as this episode is out, or not till Monday. I mean, that's just kind of the vibe I'm getting. I feel like it's either big splash today or they kind of coast through the weekend and then Monday, Tuesday, something happens. But
I'm
you
cool with
mentioned
that.
the Marlins. Let's get into it, man. I mean, look, I don't want to spend too much time on the Marlins. This is our 9th episode. I feel like it's the 3rd episode that we've had a Mets Marlins series to discuss. So we've talked about this team at length. We've talked about pitching matchups at length here, but here they are for you, folks. Game 1, Chris Bassitt, Sandy Alcantara. Game 2, 10-4 Cookie Carrasco versus 4-10 Trevor Rogers. Game 3, Ty Walker versus Pablo Lopez. And when you look at those matchups, Lopez is having a great year, just came off an 11K performance against Cincinnati, but Walker's been superior. Cookie clearly superior to Rogers. It comes down to game 1. You win game 1, you're in it for the sweep, or at least 2 out of 3. You drop game 1 to Alcantara, and look, it's no easy task going up against Sandy Alcantara, the NL Cy Young favorite, but you drop game 1, and you got to win games 2 and 3. We've talked about the importance of divisional games so much this year, and especially for the past decade plus in the National League East. You got 6 on the road with the Marlins and Nats. I mean, 4 and 2 is the obvious bare minimum. I'm eyeing a 5-1 road trip. That's what I want here. So yeah, you got to, it starts with Sandy Alcantara. Your toughest task is your first task. So go out there and do it.
Absolutely. And you look at Tyler Naquin, the new New York Met, right? He just hit a bomb, over the past day against the Marlins. So he's 2 straight series against Miami now, back in Miami here. And him, along with his former teammate in Francisco Lindor, are the 2 guys that I'm specifically watching in this matchup. One, Naquin, he's already seen a good amount of Marlins this year. He just came off of that matchup. I like his chances of hopefully rekindling more of that offense that we just saw literally over the past couple hours against them. But Francisco Lindor, he has owned the Marlins all year long. He has single-handedly been their father in a lot of ways. I don't know what it is with Lindor against Miami, but great
He
things
loves that
happen.
city.
Yeah, let's just ride that wave, Francisco. Let's keep it going. So the Mets, look, they did not win nearly as much as I wanted them to last time that they were in Miami. I'm still a little disgruntled by David Pearson pitching absolute gem and Daniel Castano out pitching him essentially because the Mets couldn't hit him back in Miami like over a month ago. So I want the Mets to come out of Miami at absolute minimum, win 2 of these 3 games, okay? Pitching-wise, it's going to be big pitching matchups. Cookie 10-4, where Rogers, again, is 4-10. That's a funny matchup there. Sandy Alcantara, Pablo Lopez, these guys have been really strong, but the Mets have jumped on both of them in different ways this season. I want to see more of that. Sandy's going to go 8. Make sure he at minimum gives up 2 to 3 earned runs, okay? And hopefully the Mets do their pitching part as well. Chris Bassitt's done pretty solid against pitching against the Marlins all year long. He's
pitched
seen them
tough
at minimum
lately too.
Exactly. And he looks more like himself from what we saw earlier in this year. If Bassitt can rekindle that more on the road, because his home and away splits aren't the best, but he's definitely done better as of late. Let's see more of that. Let's get this offense going. Let's try to sweep. Look, if you're going to win back-to-back games against the Yanks, this is the kind of matchup where I feel that's almost mandatory that you sweep against these Miami Marlins. Nothing personal against Miami, right? They've had a solid year, not as good in the second half as they were in the first half, being a 500 team. But this is a time now for the Mets to take advantage. You got 9 games in like a 2-week span against the Braves coming up soon. Take advantage while you still can for a Mets team right now that has a 3-game lead on the Braves. The Braves somehow lost a series to the Philadelphia Phillies,
Phillies are in the playoff picture right now, man.
It's actually insane. So let's take advantage. Now is the time to do it before all these Braves matchups, especially. Let's gain another game. Let's try to get upwards of 5 games of potential on the Braves by the time we match up. I think that would be the best case scenario. Yeah. And yeah, I'm excited. A lot of things are coming up. But Joe, before we wrap up the show, let's give some more, not breaking news, but exciting news. Did he give up a couple of home runs? Yes, but it doesn't matter. In his final rehab start, Jacob deGrom is now back in the Mets rotation. He looks like he's going to return to the Amazons on either August 1st or August 2nd in D.C. I'm pretty sure I'll be in attendance in D.C. for August 3rd for that game in D.C. So I think
he's going August 2nd, man. Can you get down there?
I probably can't get out. Wait, you said you're going to be there August 2nd?
No, I know. I'm in Los Angeles. Man.
Yeah, I know.
I said it looks like DeGrom's going August 2nd. They have Scherzer listed for Monday on ESPN.
I think I'm going to miss it by a game, unfortunately, just because August 2nd is the day of the deadline. As much as I love Jake, I got to be covered.
Show that night.
Yeah, exactly. Like I got to do a lot. I'm going to be working nonstop that day. The game I'm going to have like on my second monitor and trying to be focusing while moves are happening earlier in the day. So it's going to be a long one. I'm excited though. And yeah, Joe, any final words before we wrap up today's pod? This was episode 9 and Bleav in Queens.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm just looking at Alcantara versus the Mets right now, and it's pretty funny. It's kind of backwards. You look at the guys who have really struggled against him. Alonso, 5 for 27. It's a 185 clip. Marte, 1 for 10. It's a buck. There was another Nimmo, 3 for 26. It's a buck 15 clip. So I'm looking at, maybe does he get a start here? And,
Possible.
Naquin's 2 for 6 with a homer off of Alcantara. Maybe give Nimmo, Nimmo's been struggling lately. Maybe give Nimmo a day off.
He has been pressing a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, maybe put Naquin out in center field. It's weird. You look at the guys who have actually hit Alcantara really well, and J.D. Davis is 4 for 10. Guillorme's 5 for 12. Jankowski's 3 for 4. So
wow.
Yeah, Mazika's 2 for 3. Vogelback's 2 for 6. It's like, yeah, you look at the guys. I mean, small sample sizes. Khan is 2 for 5. Lindor and McNeil both hitting at least 280. McNeil's 286, 8 for 28. Lindor 318, 7 for 22. But yeah, Alonso, Marte, Nimmo really struggle against Alcantara. Maybe Naquin, who's got a bomb and 6 at-bats against him, maybe gets the nod. You got to win this game. I mean, it's not, going to end the world if you don't, but winning this game really can set you up for a potential sweep in Miami, a potential 5-1 road trip against the 2 bottom dwellers in the, I almost said the NFC, in the NL East. It's getting late. But it's going to be, this is a game I can't wait for. We've already faced Alcantara now. This will be 4 times this season. I Bleav the Mets are 1-2 in the 3 matchups.
Well, let's make sure we even things out then. I want us on the same playing field now. But yeah, this matchup is going to be fun. Definitely a different vibe for sure, going from a packed City Field on the Subway Series in Miami now, with more Mets fans there than Marlins fans, I'm sure. But what I do know is, again, this is a time for the Mets to really jump on the Marlins here. Mets haven't done too much of that this season for the most part, getting sweeps. I know it's not an easy task, but now just feels like the absolute perfect time to try your best to execute here, really gain on things as we head into August and everything that is going to entail. But Joe, this was a phenomenal episode. I love breaking everything down. I'm so excited to see what moves are going to happen, hopefully by next time that we talk. But this was episode 9 of Bleav in Queens, guys. Next time that we talk, Anthony Recker will more than likely be back with us. Again, he was on doing MLB Network. He's just casually an analyst for, MLB Network.
It's tough. The guy's on MLB Network every day, and he's on diaper duty. I mean, it's not
and
easy.
He's doing Apple TV tomorrow. I mean, he's fully locked and loaded.
Yeah, so what's the deal with that? Is he going to be on the broadcast, or is he going to be in the studio?
That I don't know. I guess
I think
we'll
he's
just
a
find
studio
out
guy. Yeah, I think because he said 2 games, so I think that means he's
in
the
okay.
studio.
My guess is he's probably like doing analyst stuff that he would for
he's
the
fucking
network.
killing it. He's fucking killing it. What a great get for the show. I know we're in an episode in with him, but I mean that was just such a blast last episode, and it's only up from here to the moon, baby.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. But guys, if you're watching on YouTube, don't hesitate to smash that like and subscribe on. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What was your biggest takeaway from today's pod? And wherever you're listening to the podcast audio-wise, make sure to rate, review, hit that like button, all that stuff. Follow, subscribe. Greatly appreciate it. Again, guys, we have been growing at a tremendous pace. We're not even 10 episodes in here for the Bleav Network. And it's all thanks to you lovely viewers and listeners all out there regarding our beloved Mets fans. So guys, thank you so much. Make sure to check me out on YouTube at WardyNYM if you're not watching here already. And also check me out on Twitter at WardyNYM, where you can see me rant and share way too much profanity on the New York Mets, and more than likely a positive fashion. But Joe, what do you got for me? Where can people find you?
Catch me on Instagram at Joe Serralo and on Twitter at the Joe Serralo. Daily best bets on Twitter. I've given out 104 this year. I've hit 69 of them. Nice. And it's a hell of a winning percentage too. It's 69 and what? 35. I mean, follow those bets, make yourself some money. And also my national radio show, Serralo Sports Talk. It airs Thursdays, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on Sports Map Radio. I know it's Friday now, which means the show is up as a podcast. So after you listen to or watch this episode, go look up Serralo Sports Talk. It's pretty much the radio show with no commercials. Had my man Josh Booty on this week. Of course, LSU quarterback, NFL quarterback, and member of the 97-98 Miami, Florida Marlins. We talk David Ortiz's Hall of Fame induction. Josh and Big Papi are good friends. We talk NFL training camp, Subway Series on the show, everything and then some. So go catch Serralo Sports Talk and hit me up at Joe Serralo on Instagram, at the Joe Serralo on
You know,
Twitter.
Joe's bets are no joke. I've been asking for advice now. He's been absolutely killing it. So again,
I didn't send them to you. Did you see my tweet with today's with
no,
Zach?
I didn't. We'll do it tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow.
I went 2-1. I hit Wheeler and Ohtani. Wheeler was over 6.5. Ohtani was over 8.5. And I lost on the Guardians money line. They were cruising into the 6th, and then Bogarts hit a 3-run homer off McKenzie. Dude, I'd kill to get Tristan McKenzie. I love that guy.
Dude, he's slim. He's Mr. Slim.
love
I love
that
him. Yeah, he's no calf, but man, oh man, he's got some nasty stuff in his arsenal.
Yeah.
I take him any day of the week. 100%.
Yeah. So I mean, he in July going into the game, he had 26 and 2/3 innings, 1 earned run, a .34 ERA. Was cruising through like 5 1/3, and then Bogarts just over the green monster. See you later. How you doing? 3-run dinger.
You know what? Got to give credit where credit's due. Xander is a beast, and he's going to be fun to watch to see where he's going. Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Episode 9 of Bleav in Queens. We'll see you guys after the Marlins series. But until then, let's go Mets, baby.